Well, Sunday marks Africa Anti-Corruption Day, and it is the fifth since its inception by the African Union in 2017. The 2020 Corruption Perceptions Index, launched by Germany-based Transparency International, ranked Sub-Saharan Africa as the lowest scoring region in the world. Sub-Saharan Africa scored an average of 32 out of 100 points, sitting below the global average of 43. Well, let's bring you some analysis on this now. We're joined by Aiden Eyakuze, the Executive Director at Twaweza East Africa and the incoming co-chair of the Open Government Partnership Steering Committee. He joins us live via Skype from Morogoro in Tanzania. Aiden, thank you so much for your time. Now, we know, of course, that corruption has been a persistent thorn in Africa's path to prosperity. But what are some of the current corruption trends in Africa that worry you?
The trends are not good. Thank you for inviting me. Afrobarometer has been doing these surveys for quite a while, and the latest one that I came across shows that on average across 18 countries, 6 out of 10 Africans say that corruption has increased in their country during the previous year. This was in 2019, including 41% who say it increased a lot. Only 1 in 5 believe that it decreased at least somewhat. And when they assess key public institutions, almost half of Africans say most or all police officials are involved in graft. So I think the police services in our countries tend to be number one in terms of being accused of corruption. More than 1/3 of citizens actually see widespread corruption in parliament, in the civil service, in the legal system, the tax office, and the presidency, which is really worrying. And then if you look deeper, in 11 countries surveyed during the last decade, up until 2020, citizens actually say that corruption has worsened in 3 areas: in the presidency, amongst members of parliament, and within the judiciary. So this is the picture even before the COVID-19 pandemic hit us. When you look at the COVID-19, actually, I think it worsened the corruption issue in Africa, because so many resources were marshaled in such a short space of time for emergency expenditure. But here we're seeing the theft, diversion of resources having direct life-threatening implications. For example, in Zimbabwe, the health minister was sacked last year and charged with criminal abuse over the alleged irregular awarding of a $60 million contract for COVID-19 supplies. Kenya has not escaped this. The Anti-Corruption Commission investigated allegations of graft in June 2020 over the procurement and supply of COVID-19 equipment. The figure here involved $72 million. Even Somalia jailed some senior health ministry officials for almost up to 18 years over corruption in the theft of public money. So in general, the picture is not good, but it's been made worse specifically during this COVID-19 period, where a lot of resources are being marshaled and expended to try and deal with the pandemic. And finally, citizens are saying that their government is doing way too little to control corruption. So 2/3 in the Afrobarometer surveyed countries say that their government is doing a poor job. The only one that comes up nicely a little bit is Botswana, where a majority, 56%, praise their government's anti-corruption efforts.
Well, Aiden, you certainly paint a very worrying picture. But, I mean, certainly there has been a lot of work being done by various organizations, activists, citizens themselves to fight against corruption. Have there been key successes in the anti-corruption drive?
I think there's one country I noted in which it would appear the citizens are saying corruption has reduced quite significantly, and that is Angola. But you know, Angola, I think, recently went through a change in leadership. They have a new president there, and it is possible that in his aggressive management of the economy, in his aggressive attack against the previous regime's corruption, the Angolan citizens are feeling that this is a much better situation now. But I don't know that they feel that it has gone away completely. But I think we need much more systemic approach to dealing with corruption. And you mentioned in the introduction that I am involved with the Open Government Partnership. And this is a partnership in Africa which has about 14 countries. And the aim is simply to make government much more transparent, much more inclusive of citizens, and much more accountable to the citizens instead of being accountable to itself. And one of the things that we have been doing in this COVID-19 period especially is launching a process called Open Renewal, which is a campaign to really inspire and empower government reformers to tackle big challenges and ensure that everyone really has a fair chance of living with, without corruption. And fighting corruption through open contracting, open budgets, and exposure of anonymous owners of companies is a specific way that civil society and government reformers can come together to fight corruption. And there's a couple of examples, if you don't mind, I can share with you, which are trying to deal with this. In Kaduna, in Nigeria, which is a member of the Open Government Partnership at the subnational level, they have this wonderful initiative called Eyes and Ears. And this is an initiative which allows ordinary people in Kaduna to portal which leaders can then look and say, actually, we're supposed to have spent this much money to build a road or a bridge or a school or school feeding, but the citizens are telling us that that money is not reaching there, and so they're able to go directly to deal with that particular situation. Or at a systemic level, Nigeria, Kenya, even Tanzania have passed beneficial ownership transparency legislation, which forces companies to actually name the individuals who benefit from the profits of those companies. Such transparency hopefully will help us expose those who are engaging in corruption and therefore be able to follow them, prosecute, and make sure that it doesn't happen. So transparency really is key on the one hand, making this available to citizens, involving citizens in following up on government procurement, government expenditure can begin to help fight the corruption.
And that certainly tells us that a corruption-free Africa is not an elusive ideal. Thank you so much, Aiden Iyakuze, the Executive Director at Twaweza East Africa, joining us there via Skype.